Well, I feel like we need to talk about this situation where a legendary OG deathcore band, Oceano, just announced that they are going to be breaking up following backlash that they've gotten from taking a specific tour and some of the responses from commenters about things that their singer said and stuff. This is a really odd situation, man. And I think we can turn this into a bigger discussion about how you need to be aware of the business you're doing in the music industry and be aware of everything going on and also how to handle things. But yeah, let's dive into this, man. So we're live on Twitch right now. Hi, everybody. Chat is still in timeout. I was going to let you guys out, but the other day somebody started dropping a bunch of F words and other stuff in the beginning of my video, which could have gotten my video in trouble. So you're still in timeout. To anybody watching on YouTube later, you can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech, where we talk about music news and do reactions and a bunch of other stuff. A brand new American or North American, maybe. I don't know if there's Canadian dates on this. I haven't looked hard enough, but I'll show it on screen here in a second. The America's Rejects tour was just recently announced, featuring the headliner, Attila, Oceano, who I was talking about earlier, legendary OG deathcore band. And I know there's probably a lot of people out there that be like, legendary, like, I've never heard of them, and blah, you know, I get it, but like, Oceano's been around since 2006, and while they've never blown up into one of the biggest, most mainstream deathcore bands, they've had a huge influence on the scene, and they've been around for a while, and like, diehard deathcore bands are very aware of this band. The tour is also featuring Dealer and Nathan James. Well, I gotta admit, I was not too familiar with the two opening acts, but there's been a lot of heat about this tour all over the place online. And at first I kind of was like, yeah, I see that, because people, you know, have very strong opinions on Franz from Attila, but it goes way deeper than that. After this tour was announced, as you can see on screen, John from Alpha Wolf posted on an Instagram story, ha 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 ha. I was going to say some shit about the Abuser tour, but that shit tour is so embarrassing and pathetic, it's all speaking for itself. If you're from the States and follow me on here, I'd like to think you're genuine enough to value the women in your life and not support the cesspool tour. Anyone and everyone involved are fucking morons and will be burning so many bridges. And I was kind of stunned, because I was like, wow, like, I haven't seen anybody go after Attila that hard in a while, but I guess it wasn't specifically Attila, because the singer for Dealer, the second band on this lineup, is Alpha Wolf's previous singer that was kicked out of the band in 2018, and I did not know this. Shortly after, Ryan O'Leary, Tuck from Fit for a King, posted on Twitter, I wonder if Dealer will participate in Franz's OnlyFans. Might be too consensual for Aiden. So that made me be like, whoa, like, I didn't even know about any of this. Like, I actually, if I'm being 100% honest, didn't even know Alpha Wolf had a previous singer before Loki at all. I mean, I only got into them around like 2020 or so, and that was before then. But so I started doing some digging on this whole thing, and I figured we're not going to do like a full deep dive, because it's a lot of information. Like, I'm going to put images and stuff on screen, and if you guys want to check it out in your own time, you can, but I'll give you the short recap of why people are being so critical of this tour. The first reason is Franz, the frontman for Attila. He's always had like controversy around him and stuff like that. But about 4 years ago, he was accused of sexual assault of a fan when they were on tour in Europe. And one of the big parts of the story is that this fan was underage. There were no criminal charges or anything like this from this. This was an accusation to which Franz did respond to. And he actually said that this happened. He said it was not sexual assault, though. He said they did hook up and they've hung out backstage multiple times. But he said that she lied about her age. He said he even carded her when they first met. She had a fake ID. He said they did hook up, and unbeknownst to his knowledge, she was underage and lied about her age. And he also alleges that he thinks one of his exes was in on this whole thing of getting this girl to accuse him and go after him because he had cheated on his ex and she was mad and wanted to take revenge. Again, just repeating the things that have happened. So that's the big thing that has made these other band members from other bands make statements like this with Attila. But then Dealer, the short story with this is that in 2018 or somewhere right before that, there were accusations about the vocalist at the time for Alpha Wolf. His name is Aiden Holmes, formerly known as Aiden Elez. if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he now goes by Aiden Holmes. He was kicked out of Alpha Wolf after he was accused of sexual misconduct and sexual assault. He was formally charged for sexual assault. That court hearing, long story short, was eventually thrown out. And here is the actual court document that says it was thrown out because there was no evidence to offer. However, when these accusations first came out, there were actual official statements from the woman that was accusing Aiden of these things. Why she didn't offer that evidence in a court of law, I don't know. And I cannot confirm what I'm about to say, so this is hearsay, but there are a lot of people that are from Australia that seem to be a part of this scene that claim that she was paid outside of court, and he was supposed to also issue an apology, which he never did. It is also confirmed that Aiden's father is a police officer, and people are suggesting that that is also what has made these things go away. So after he gets kicked out of Alpha Wolf, he starts a band called Dealer. And then in 2020, there was another accusation of sexual misconduct. Every single member of Dealer quit the band, and they said, we have decided to no longer be a part of or associated with Dealer, effective immediately. At an appropriate time, more information will come. And over the next couple of years, some of these band members did start to speak out and say that behind the scenes, this is actually kind of similar to the As I Lay Dying thing, where the band members were saying that their morals were tested and their physical and mental safety and stuff like that. It was really weird. Mass exodus of band members. Like, there's been like 15 different band members that have come in and out of this band. The only remaining person is Aiden Holmes. So now that you're kind of in the know about the drama behind Attila and Dealer and why people are being critical of this, people seem to have turned their frustrations and kind of hatred of these other people and bands onto Oceano, the direct support band on the tour. People started going after Oceano and being like, I can't believe you guys are on this tour and like supporting these people and all of this. This all started on Twitter, where the DIY label DSFP posted this and then tweeted at Adam, the vocalist for Oceano, and said, all I'm saying, Adam, is that you have a massive platform in a booming deathcore world that could be taking any of the multiple hundreds of artists on successful tours and make a massive bag. But y'all signed on to a tour where people need to cover their drinks and watch out. To which Adam responded. It was fairly quick, actually. It was like 30 minutes later, Adam responded to this and said, the best thing as someone with my standards is on any tour these days. No one, no matter their social status, should be trusted. A man should be judged by their character and how they treat others. If anything bad is going on with my platform, you'll be the first to know about it. I don't keep up with internet stuff like that these days. Just know I'm pretty busy with family and work. DSFP responded and said, man, what the hell kind of dismissive response is this? Not keeping up with internet stuff is a crazy thing to say when you sign on a tour package with members who have legal cases. Adam again responded immediately and said, what's dismissive about it? I don't represent any other person. I will always, while on tour, not stand for anything bad happening to anyone. Though I am not focused on anyone's life but my own, and I have my own life outside of music and the internet stuff, so I will be on watch when it's time for tour. I want concerts to always be a safe place. As a man of God and someone who serves others in light, you have my word. Much love. And then a bunch of other people started jumping in, as you can see, and Adam kind of entertained a couple of those comments, but it started getting to the point where everybody was like venting their frustration out on Adam from Oceano. And I will admit, for me personally, like I understand where he's coming from, saying he's focused on himself and he's not worried about what other people are doing. But when you're in a business like the music industry, you have to know what's going on with your scene and other bands that are going on. And this is something we'll dive into in a little bit after we cover all of this, because I do want to turn this into a bigger conversation about like being aware of your perception in the music industry and the business that you conduct. But Adam posted a huge statement on Oceano's official Facebook page. And I will read this in full. So if there's anybody out there that already saw this or doesn't want to like sit and hear me read it and you just want to like pause and read it yourself, that's totally cool. I have chapters in the video and you can skip ahead to after this and stuff like that. But We'll read this whole thing really quick. So Adam said, addressing the Attila tour conversations written by AW. Believe it or not, some people don't spend their life on the internet. My only goal has been to take opportunities to push Oceano forward since the fans said they wanted it. You will not make me out to be a bad person for things I am not connected to when it comes to what other band members do. There was a time in my life when I was in a social media high horse, and I don't agree with that nor plan to act like I am better than anyone, nor that I know the details of anyone else's business. I wasn't aware of the depth of accusations with Attila and Associates. I remind you, Oceano was not active for a long time before now. I don't even know anything about Dealer besides the band's name I've heard when they first came out years ago. Didn't they break up? I did not even know what any other bands on the tour would be beyond Attila until long after we agreed, and no one in my circle cited any issues with our decision to take the tour. I think that before judging the innocent band just taking what seemed like a decent opportunity and has never been associated with these bands before, you should look towards the agents, managers, venues, websites, festivals that all continue to support, book, and clearly downplay to their own clients the character of people their good bands work with. If you continue to read, keep asking yourself, what words have I said that are harmful? No one knew my circumstances nor my perspective until this moment. And I will stress, I don't support any type of abuse or harm to anyone ever, but I'm not paying attention to what you all or anyone in the music scene personally does on the internet. I don't have time for that. So it is clear I was not informed enough to make a proper decision to tour with this package. I've never experienced bands causing such a stir, and I was not made aware until announcing the tour of people with such serious allegations surrounding them being on a tour I'm going to be on. I encourage anyone who is directly affected by those people/bands to contact the authorities/police and take legal action. I have been nothing but kind and positive within this music scene, especially on that internet side, and that can be hard sometimes. A year ago, we almost ended Oceano for good. We had an album to drop, but we definitely were done. I had zero idea my name is being tossed around alongside fucking people who have people accusing them of horrible things. And getting upset with me because I'm just hearing about it. In real time, people swarmed me while I was still figuring out what was going on. Y'all are vicious and clearly seek chaos without care of who it affects. Though I have been blessed with much opportunity, as we enter a more connected era, I have felt very disrespected over the years from a scene that really is more a facade than a real concept in reality. After gathering my own information on the subject, of course, we will be removing Oceano from the tour. But shame on all of you who tried to make me the scapegoat. What are you doing to change this culture besides point fingers and reshare rumors? It's time to get to work. I had zero idea the environment I was getting myself into, and I'm talking openly about it. What are you doing to change this? As of today, it is clear I am way more surrounded by complicit industry people, a metal scene riddled with cosplay, worship of band members, and less focus on artistic integrity. I don't want to exist to you anymore. As of today, I quit Oceano and will focus on being a solo independent artist. His project is called Adam on Earth. Oceano's final shows will now begin being planned for 2025. It feels good to finally say that. Whew. Okay, that is a very big, very long statement with a lot of things that we can touch on here. And I do want to go through a lot of this because there are things from like an industry perspective that I think he makes good points at. And there are other things that I think maybe he probably should have done a better job of knowing these business aspects of these things. But I will say before I really dig in, I do think the way he is being made a scapegoat, as he called it, is a little intense, man. It's like people have been giving Franz from Attila shit for so long and Aiden from Dealer shit so long, it looks like, that it's like they have a new person to go after, and that's what's happening right now. And it's very unfortunate. Like I said, I think Adam is a very nice and good person, and I kind of feel bad that he's having to deal with this. But let's go through this. This first paragraph where he was talking about the things on the internet, and he said, I wasn't aware of the depth of accusations with Attila and Associates. I find that a little hard to believe because Dealer, sure, fully 100% admit I knew nothing about Dealer or these accusations before it was even brought up by Alpha Wolf's current members. Like, I didn't even know who Dealer was. But Attila has been in the scene for so long, and Franz has had so much controversy surrounding him that I find it hard to believe that anybody within the metal scene, specifically like deathcore and metalcore and stuff, doesn't know about Attila's reputation. Yeah, as SheVRs in chat just said, the accusations are kind of a part of Attila's brand. Like, Franz's whole personality and his controversialness is part of their brand. So, Like that, it's kind of very well known. When he said, I think that before judging the innocent band just taking what seemed like a decent opportunity and has never been associated with the bands before, you should look towards the agents, managers, venues, websites, festivals that all continue to support, book, and clearly downplay to their own clients the characters of people in their bands that they work with. It's a good point, but also a point that's slightly detrimental to his argument too. I do believe like he was probably stoked for their band to just get a good opportunity because that tour will probably do well. I mean, Attila still has a good fan base and they are headlining. But when he brings up the agents, managers, venues, websites, festivals, yeah, all of these people will continue to be complicit and work with bands if they're going to make money regardless. I mean, we've seen it a million times. This industry, this music industry, is fucking brutal, man. And it really doesn't matter when it comes to money, what kind of accusations and stuff there are, dude. I mean, unless somebody's arrested and thrown in jail, and sometimes that won't even stop it. Like, if there's money to be made, people will make it. And it's funny that he brings up managements and agents because he refers to them as the innocent band that wanted to take a good opportunity. But my question would be, where was your agent and manager during this whole situation? Because their manager, Gino Scarum from Scarum Management, has also been in this scene for a very long time. He's a roadie. He's worked at venues in Chicago. Like, he's very into this scene. Like, let's assume that Adam and the band knew nothing about Attila or Dealer. I find it crazy that their manager or their agent didn't at least tell them, hey, this might be a good opportunity, but just so you know, these bands have some drama attached to them and you might see a little bit of that. That's where a good manager comes in, dude. I've seen it happen before on tours as a roadie. I've worked for bands that have gotten offers and they're like stoked about it. And their manager will step in and be like, before you take this tour and agree to it, here are all the facts that you need to know. And this is how it's going to look to people with you being on this tour. It's also happened with openers on tours I've been on. I've worked for bands that have been throwing around ideas of openers and they've come to the crew and management and stuff and like, is there any dirt on this band that would make us look bad for taking them on tour? These are things that are commonly talked about behind the scenes. So it's kind of crazy to me to really think like every single person in Oceano's camp was just naive and oblivious to the fact that this might look bad. Again, I think it's unfair that they are being made the scapegoat for the behavior of these other bands and the reputation of these other bands, but I do find it a little hard to believe that not one person in their camp was like, ooh, Attila and Dealer? I don't know, man. Sharky Gal just said in chat, it takes about 2 seconds to Google a band name plus controversy or band name plus accusations. He talks like this is an impossibly complicated thing to do. Yeah, I mean, you can just type in Aiden Holmes's name or Franz's name into a Google search, and the first things that come up are the accusations they've had against them. I'll tell you right now, when I tour now, like with bands, or more specifically full-time with Electric Callboy, like if we have bands doing shows with us that I'm not familiar with, even me, just as a tour manager, the first thing I do is Google the other bands and check out everything I can about them, just to see what we're getting into and what to expect. El Nuvian said, makes me think of Spirit Box agreeing to tour with Falling in Reverse and then dropping out when people started to call them out. Yeah, that's a good point to bring up too, because we remember that a couple years ago when Falling in Reverse announced a big tour and Spirit Box was on it. Their fans went nuts and were like, we can't believe you've agreed to a tour with somebody like Ronnie Radke. And then they promptly dropped off. And in a situation like that, you've got one side that's, yelling at them for supporting cancel culture and being weak and all this. And then the other side that, is supporting them, but saying, well, you shouldn't have taken this tour in the first place. So sometimes these musicians in bands are put in situations where it's like lose. Like there's nothing they could do and people are still going to find a way to crucify them. In his second paragraph, he was asking, what words have I said that were harmful? I would say none. I would absolutely say none. I don't think Adam has done anything or said anything that was harmful. I do, from one perspective, understand why people weren't happy with his answers when he was like, oh, what those guys are doing has nothing to do with me, which is true. But as we've just been talking about, putting your band on a tour with these other bands with that reputation is going to reflect on you as well. So you could say like, oh, I don't condone their behavior all you want, but to the public's perception, touring with them on a full package is going to make it look like you do. And, you know, you can say, oh, if I see anything shady on tour, I'll call it out. But I mean, these guys have had shady stuff going on for years and you're still on the tour, you know? So I understand the public's backlash to his original statement. I get it. I'm not saying I fully agree. I do think that nowadays people like to get fired up. We've built our own internet gallows where everybody just wants to tear people down and go crazy. I can't argue that at all. I like to approach these situations with a very objective take. And you know what? Sometimes that's bad for me. I mean, we've talked about this, like one of my recent videos about Falling in Reverse and Ronnie Radke, where I objectively looked at their shows canceling and explained how this stuff usually happens and what goes on. Ronnie Radke diehard fans were mad that I didn't defend him enough. And then other people that don't like him were mad that I didn't shit on him enough. So even even on the internet, when you look at some things objectively, people will still be upset and think you're not doing enough. And listen, there's been many times in my videos where I haven't fully conveyed what I mean in a good enough way, or I've said things wrong or something like that, or people have taken things the wrong way. So I get that perception is a big part of it. You hear me say something and depending on how I say it is how you're going to take it. I get that. And I try my hardest to be objective in when I talk about these things, but there are times where I slip up so I can understand some of the backlash I get too. When Adam said, I have been nothing but kind and positive within this music scene, especially on that internet side, and that can be hard sometimes. He said, I had zero idea my name is being tossed around alongside fucking people who have been accusing them of horrible things. Like, that is kind of the bummer situation of this. Like, I will absolutely 100% stand by his statement where he said, I have been nothing but kind and positive within this music scene. Adam, and I've said this for years, is one of the kindest and most supporting people in a Chicago local music scene that I've ever encountered growing up there in the music scene. Back in the days, like almost 20 years ago at this point, I worked at a little venue outside of Chicago called Mojo's. We had a lot of local shows and a lot of regional and some national shows come through. And I would see Adam at almost every single local show there, regardless of the genre, not just hardcore or deathcore or metal. He was at every show talking to people, talking to the bands, talking to people in the local scene, talking to fans. And he was always an absolutely genuine, upstanding guy. I really can't think of anybody else I've ever seen in the music scene that was like that. So when he claims to be that positive and kind and supportive, he really is, and I will attest to that. He has done so much for the music scene that he was in, man. And that, I think for me, maybe in a self sort of bias a little bit, that is why I feel so bad for him in this situation, is because the Adam that I know shouldn't deserve this kind of backlash for just maybe a little blunder like this of getting your band on the tour with the wrong people. As Foggy Bog just said, should you know about the bands you're touring with? Ideally. Are you responsible for whatever that other band does or did outside of the tour? No. It's a fair point to make. Like, yes, you should be responsible for knowing the reputation of the people you're touring with and what that might look like for your band. But ultimately, as he said too, what they do is not what he did. You know, he talked about how in real time, people were swarming him while he was trying to figure out what was going on with this situation. And I can imagine, like last night when that was going on, last night from when we're recording, of course, he's trying to figure out what's going on and talking to people and stuff like that. And everybody's just going after him. And he said, after gathering his own information on the subject, of course, we will be dropping off of this tour. And the last part of it to me is really, it's kind of a bummer, man. And it's kind of depressing. It's like, this is a defeated dude. Like that, this last part of this reads as it's very defeated. Like he's over it, dude. He says he doesn't want to exist to you anymore. The people out there in the music industry that are just making him a scapegoat. And yeah, this just reads to me like he's just defeated. He's been burned out by the music industry and all the shady stuff going on, and the agents, the managers, the festivals, the venues, the people. I mean, he said, as of today, I quit Oceano, and he's going to be focusing on his own stuff. But let's go back to the actual business sense of all of this and how this can how this plays out and how this affects bands and how bands make these decisions. And, you know, we'll start off by bringing up a question in chat. That evil person just said, do bands know which other bands will be on the tour before they sign the contract? It really all depends. Sometimes when bands do sign on to a tour, they may not know who some of the other supporting bands are. So when Adam says when they signed on to the tour with Attila, he didn't know who the openers were, I 100% believe that. Like, that is a thing that happens. Now, a good agent and a manager may bring up to a band's agent and managers like, hey, we want you guys on this tour, and these are the other potential bands that we are planning on bringing on. So the band may have a good idea of who that may be. But I do believe when Adam said they didn't know who the support bands were, like, I 100% believe that, because that's the way it works sometimes. Lightbearer said it could be a case of my people spoke with their people too. Yeah, for sure, man. Like, in this industry, you have booking agents and you have managers and stuff like that, and you rely on those people to bring you the information that you need to know. So if I'm in a band, I need to trust my agent and manager to tell me everything about a situation before we make a decision together. I'm not saying this happened because I don't know what happened, but maybe their manager or agent didn't tell them. Maybe they just didn't know or didn't convey the proper information of, hey, these are who the potential other bands will be or anything like that. But I think to the internet's side of the argument is like, Attila's reputation is well known and they knew they were taking a tour with Attila. So there's one part of it. I think people are more upset about the dealer thing with their singer's reputation. But here's an interesting thing to bring up too, though. If members of Fit for a King and Alpha Wolf hadn't said anything about this, do you think there would be the uproar? Because as we've determined with the internet, people, like we've said, have built their own gallows and they like to go after people, and people like to steamroll on top of that. So I'm wondering how big of a deal this would have been if no other members of bands had even said anything about it. Did people start expressing outrage after the fire was stoked? Because like I said, I didn't even know anything about Dealer until the members of Alpha Wolf brought this up on social media. So I wouldn't have known anything about it. But like I was saying earlier, and I think this is the biggest takeaway from all of this, and the biggest point that I could make to anybody in the music industry and stuff like that is, you absolutely need to know what's going on when you're getting involved with business transactions in the music industry. And agreeing to be on a tour is a business transaction. You need to know how it is going to look to the public when you take that tour, what it's going to do to your reputation. You need to know about the other bands that are on it. And as we've said, like, if you don't know anything about those other bands, you can Google and find out. And let's be honest here, this isn't the first time this has happened. As we've already brought up, like Spirit Box dropped off the Falling in Reverse tour. Now, whether that was due to their fans' backlash or them legitimately not understanding that would have happened, I don't know. But it is very important to know all of these things before you agree to a tour. And I think the poor part of Adam's argument here is claiming that he just doesn't keep up with what's going on with other people and like he didn't know. Like he's either... He and his band and his management team and everything are either extremely naive or they were just hoping there wasn't going to be backlash, and now there is. It's got to be one of two of those things, because I find it almost impossible that every single person in their camp was naive to the fact that Attila and Dealer had a reputation like this. And at the very least, I find it hard to believe that their manager wouldn't have known that and told them. Like that is the most unbelievable thing to me, that their agent or manager wouldn't have made that known to them before letting them decide what to take. But listen, honestly, man, it probably seems like I am, but I'm not sitting here trying to judge anybody. I think this entire situation for Oceano is extremely unfortunate. I do agree with Adam and think that he is being made a scapegoat in this entire situation. Control Alt Deli Meat just said some people smell blood like sharks, for sure. And I think that's what happened here. I think some people on Twitter went after Adam and then other people piled on. And unfortunately, the end result, as you can see, is a guy that is just clearly defeated and over dealing with this kind of drama in this music industry, and has said he is officially quitting his band. It's unfortunate. It's a bummer. It legitimately, to me, looking at this situation, is a bummer that this is the outcome of something like this. Again, I think with the proper vetting and looking into things, this could have potentially been avoided, but that's neither here nor there, because this is the situation we're in. And this is just my take on this. Again, I'm not trying to judge anybody or shame anybody. It's just, It's an unfortunate situation that I think a lot of people could learn a lesson from, is the point that I'm trying to make. But anyways, guys, we're going to wrap this one up, man. To everybody in Twitch chat, thank you again for being here, bringing up some good questions and some good stuff, even if not all of it was on screen. Again, if you're watching on YouTube later, you can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech, where we talk about music news and a lot of other stuff like that. And I'm also on a ton of different social media. At TankTheTech is my handle on just about everything. And I'm going on tour soon, so you can keep up with what I'm doing out there, mostly on Instagram. But yeah, that'll do it for this one, man. I almost feel a little defeated just talking about this for a while because it is such a bummer. So I'll just wrap this up by saying, wherever you are in the world, be safe, be kind to each other. I love you all, and I will see you very soon.